Silence came from the Latin word celere, which means to be still or noiseless.
Silence in spiritual terms is the conscious effort to communicate with God or the indivisible word of faith in preference to conversation with other people.
It means absence of sound or omission of mention.
Contemplative prayer is silence, the symbol of the world to come, or silent love. Words in this kind of prayer are not speeches, they are like kindling that feeds the fire of love.
Saint Faustina says that in order to hear the voice of God, one has to have silence in one's soul and to keep silence. Not on a gloomy silence, but an interior silence, that is to say, recollection in God. According to Saint Bernard, silence and the absence of noise in a certain manner force the soul to think of God and of eternal goods. According to Saint Teresa of Calcutta, we need to find God, and He cannot be found in noise and restlessness. God is the friend of silence. And according to Saint John of the Cross, whenever anything disagreeable or displeasing happens to you, remember Christ crucified and be silent.
For us religious, silence is important because
Silence is a great means of acquiring the spirit of prayer and disposing the souls to converse continually with God. We really find the spiritual souls that speak much.
all souls of prayer are lovers of silence, that is called the guardian of innocence, the shield against temptations, and the fountain of prayer. For by silence devotion is preserved, and in silence good thoughts spring up in the soul. Think before you act. Put your words into action. Be calm and patient. Listen. You can't obey if you are not silent to listen. This is true on a physical level, but also a spiritual one. Scripture symbolically links our hearts with what comes out of our mouths. The silence linked with obedience also manifests self-control, a fruit of the Spirit. Obedience and self-control are inseparable but distinct. On the one hand, lack of silence betrays a lack of self-control that otherwise governs faithfulness. It is possible to worship God in complete silence. One of Scripture's most beautiful paradoxes is that wordlessness can speak clearly about God's glory. We honor God when we are in awe of Him. We are made in His image and therefore bring Him glory in our humble silence, while every other creature is simply mute. Scripture is full of instances of silent awe prompted by wonder before God. As a parallel to wonder in light of God's salvation, silence is a blessed product of the rest that we have in Him. Knowing that God is our God prompts us to be still. Even in the face of uncertainty and suffering, the psalmists can say, "For God alone my soul waits in silence. From Him comes my salvation, for my hope is from Him." Often when we think of wisdom, we think of speaking, usually to give counsel. But many times, wisdom should prompt just the opposite, especially in the book of Job. we see the tension between the desire to give counsel and the need to be silent.
Finally, if we wish to learn holy silence, we do well to turn to and imitate the Blessed Virgin Mary, who kept all things in her heart to ponder them. By her silence, Mary was intimately associated with the holy angels.
We as Lim sisters observe silence as our way of doing fraternal charity towards one another and to avoid the sins of the tongue. We observe silence before morning prayer, after evening prayer, and during the whole day unless needed for the day's activity. And most importantly, we as Lim sisters observe silence whenever we encounter difficulties and struggles as we imitate the pondering hearts of Jesus and Mary.